Ken Dryden is named as one of the greatest minds in the NHL, one who not only had a soaring career as a goaltender, but made a name for himself in the game in every way that counted, from acting as a brick wall to prevent any team from passing through, to making a difference in the only way a goaltender can. Ken Dryden's career would eventually land him in the Hockey Hall of Fame and show to the world that he truly was one of the best who had graced the ice field. Yet this is not a tale of just pure victories, for Ken Dryden has faced plenty of pushback from people in the years since he has retired, especially in the handling of his hockey career. As Ken Dryden retired at the peak of his career, many asked what it would mean for the burgeoning career of this league legend and how long it could stand the test of time. That's right. Imagine being one of the greatest players to grace the ice hockey field, and instead of being grateful for that, you choose to leave it all behind. That is simply how many saw Dryden when he had made the fateful decision to hang up his jersey. Yet the test of time has shown that his records stand even to this day. That is the legacy that Ken Dryden represents to many. A career that was great, but could have been one of the greatest, if not for the untimely retirement of the goal scorer and the troubles it had brought his team after that. Ken Dryden had a playing career from the years 1970 to 1979, an almost blink and you'll miss it time period compared to other greats in the league. It was from the year 1974 that he dominated the field of the game, showing all his rivals just how much of a threat he was to each and every one of them. It was during this period that he came back to the NHL, winning 4 out of the next 5 Stanley Cups and Vezina trophies, a legacy that remains one of the most astounding feats of sportsmanship to this day, and one that modern-day players are still unable to match. Adding to his score, this amazing record of his had only been achieved after he had made the comeback journey from working at a law firm full-time during the 1973-1974 season. This was unheard of in the field of sports, as players usually stuck to one career path. But Ken Dryden was always cut a little different. As we will get to know later on as well, his career in ice hockey never stopped him from pursuing other paths. It would even lead him to Parliament and a position on the federal cabinet of Canada, a post of his that many Canadians would be a little too keenly aware of. Dryden's short career, spanning just 7 full seasons of games, were not nearly as long as those that had been seen by other players in the industry. This meant that Dryden was not breaking any career records or making any new feats in pure number terms. Where he excelled, however, was leading his team to Stanley Cup victories and Vezina Cups for himself. He would lead his team, the Montreal Canadiens, to victory time and time again, with Stanley Cup wins in 1973, 1976, 1977, 1978, and 1979. Ken Dryden knew the value that he brought to his team. He was a goaltender who excelled at what he did, and the more he played, the more he grew confident of that fact. Some might call it arrogance, some might call it confidence, but regardless of what it was, it made Ken Dryden drive a hard bargain with his home team. Things came to a head during the 1973-74 season when Dryden said that he was not being offered his market value. He was especially confident given the fact that he had just won the team a Stanley Cup and the Vezina Trophy the previous season. He tried to get the team management to budge on the pay they were offering him, but they would not move. In protest of this, on September 14, 1973, Ken Dryden announced that he was joining Osler, Hoskin and Harcourt, a Canadian law firm, as a legal clerk for the year. During this period, he skipped training and did not play a single game with the Canadiens. While the Montreal Canadiens had a decent year despite Dryden's absence on the field, the goal passing rate went up significantly due to the lack of Dryden as their goalie, with over 56 more goals being allowed in the 73-74 season compared to the previous one. Dryden would return to the team the following year, leading them to a number of victories over the subsequent years. Throughout his career, Dryden would lead his team to many victories, winning the Stanley Cup over 6 times, the Vezina Trophy 5 times, and a Calder Trophy. This made him the most decorated goaltender of the 70s in the sport of ice hockey. Despite his short but remarkable career, Ken Dryden left an impression that remains unforgettable to fans of the sport even to this day. Another controversy in Dryden's career occurred in 1979 when he decided to retire from ice hockey for the final time. This decision caught many fans by surprise, as Dryden was at the peak of his career and considered the best goaltender in the game. This sudden decision to retire took everyone by surprise. Both his rivals and fans were left dumbfounded. The unexpected retirement of such a prominent figure led to numerous speculation. Some believed Dryden Dryden had nothing left to prove, having achieved all there was in the sport. Others thought he might have wanted to pursue interests beyond hockey. This move solidified his reputation as a player who made decisions on his terms, never afraid to walk away from the game he dominated. Dryden's legacy is a blend of his on-ice achievements and his off-ice choices. His decision to value his worth and step away when he felt it necessary speaks volumes about his character. He wasn't just a great athlete, he was a person who understood the bigger picture of life beyond the rink. Dryden remains a significant figure in hockey history, and his story continues to inspire both players and fans alike. His career, marked by both triumphs and controversies, showcases a man dedicated to excellence and integrity in everything he pursued. In the time that has passed, much has been spoken of the decision of Ken Dryden to return since that time. A player retiring at their peak in the game is practically unheard of in the game, and this decision was one that took the people around them unaware. After his retirement from the game, Ken Dryden would pick up multiple career paths that he would stick with for various periods. During this time period, Ken Dryden showed that he was not bound by a single field and tried his hand in a number of jobs, using his expertise in ice hockey to augment the jobs that they held throughout this period. Ken Dryden leveraged the unrivaled experience and insight he had gained from his famous hockey career to write several books on the subject of ice hockey, such as Face Off at the Summit, about the Canada versus Soviet Union series of 1972, and The Game, about ice hockey itself. His writing career also saw him dabble in various topics, including the Canadian educational system and Canadian studies. Dryden also tried his hand at being a commentator for hockey at the 1980, 1984, and 1988 Winter Olympics, continuing his involvement with the sport. However, his most significant involvement in ice hockey was perhaps as a sports executive. In this role, Ken Dryden was tasked with developing struggling ice hockey teams and making them worthy of national recognition in Canada. He was hired as the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs and was given the task of developing the team. Dryden worked as a sports executive in various capacities until his bid in politics. Politics would prove to be the greatest calling of Ken Dryden's career after ice hockey. Ken Dryden joined the Canadian Liberal Party for the 2004 federal elections, making his debut on the political scene. At the time, the Liberals were in power, and Dryden was chosen to represent the party in the York Centre seat in Toronto, considered a safe Liberal seat. Supposedly, the selection of Dryden for the seat was done by the Prime Minister of the time, Paul Martin. Dryden went on to win the seat by a margin of 11,000 votes, as the Liberals won the election. This stunning victory led to Ken Dryden being selected for the federal cabinet in Canada, where he was appointed as the Minister of Social Development. Dryden's political career continued to pay dividends in the next election when he ran for the same York Centre seat again in the 2006 federal elections. While Ken Dryden was able to retain his seat with a reduced majority, his party, the Liberal Party of Canada, lost the elections and was thrown out of power. Following this reversal of fortunes, Ken Dryden was chosen for the shadow cabinet as health critic. Politics is not an easy game, however, and Dryden's margins of victory grew narrower with each election. His margins of victory dwindled in the 2006 elections and became even smaller in the 2008 election. Dryden knew that his time in his seat was limited, and if he wanted to win in the next election, he would have to concentrate all his efforts on his campaign. That was exactly what he committed himself to doing for the 2011 federal elections in the York Centre seat of Canada. However, this effort came a little too late, as Ken Dryden lost his seat in the election. Despite being a recognizable name across Canada due to his NHL career, it seemed that his past political work had finally caught up with him, and he would have to face the consequences. During his political career, Ken Dryden also made a bid for one of the most powerful positions in all of Canada, the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada. At the start of the leadership contest of the Liberal Party of Canada, Dryden's bid was considered one of the stronger ones due to his widespread recognition from his NHL career and being one of the most well-known players of the game. However, this bid quickly fell by the wayside as Ken Dryden finished a distant fifth in the leadership battle and was eliminated in the first round of the leadership election. His failure to convince people has often been attributed to the lack of charisma that Dryden possessed in his bid for leadership, one that saw him not utilize his strengths and present himself in a manner that was seen as lethargic and ponderous. Throughout his impressive career, Ken Dryden is remembered as one of the greatest goaltenders the game ever produced, making it into the Hockey Hall of Fame as soon as he was eligible. The legacy of Ken Dryden remains as one one of the biggest players to have ever graced the ice fields of hockey. He made his mark during his 7 short seasons in the game, never being afraid to know his worth and leaving when the time called for it. He ensured his name stood out among all the players of his generation, winning successive Stanley Cups and Vezina trophies. To some, 7 seasons might be considered too short a time to have achieved anything significant, especially in the fast-paced world of league sports where athletes often spend that much time just getting their footing. But for a player like Ken Dryden, he knew exactly what he wanted to achieve and how to achieve it. The game Ken Dryden played was simply on a different level than his opponents, of a different caliber altogether, as acknowledged by both his rivals and fans. The Montreal Canadiens knew it when they lost him for a season and saw their goals against increase. The NHL itself knew it when Ken Dryden retired and the quality of the game fell drastically, to the point where the league had lost its greatest goaltender of the decade. Dryden's impact extended beyond his on-ice performances. He became a symbol of excellence and professionalism, setting a standard for future generations of goaltenders. His technique, composure, and ability to perform under pressure made him a role model for aspiring hockey players. Coaches and players alike would study his games, seeking to emulate his style and mindset. Off the ice, Dryden's contributions to the sport and society were equally significant. He used his platform to advocate for player safety, mental health awareness, and the importance of education. His voice carried weight, and he wasn't afraid to speak out on issues that mattered. This combination of athletic prowess and social consciousness endeared him to a wide audience, making him a beloved figure both in and out of the hockey community. Moreover, his writing and commentary provided fans with a deeper understanding of the sport. Books like The Game offered an introspective look at the life of a professional athlete, while his insightful analysis during Olympic broadcasts brought the excitement of the game to a global audience. His ability to articulate the nuances of hockey in a relatable way bridged the gap between players and fans, enriching the overall experience of the sport. Dryden's legacy is not only defined by his achievements, but also by the lasting impact he had on the culture of hockey. He elevated the goaltending position to new heights and inspired countless young players to dream big. Even years after his retirement, his influence can still be seen in the way the game is played and appreciated. Ken Dryden's name will forever be synonymous with excellence in hockey, a testament to his enduring legacy as one of the greatest goaltenders to have ever played the game.